talk about the game a little bit. Offense did some really good things. I feel like there's a different kind of enthusiasm with the football team after that performance against the Dragons of Moorhead. I guess what's the attitude of the football team coming so close and competing with Moorhead after week one?
Yeah, I think there's clear disappointment with not getting the end result that everybody was hoping to have, right? I think there's great belief in being so close, and jumping out to a 21-0 start was really good for us. And I think ultimately that was our strength, that was our weakness, and it kind of bit us a little bit because we hadn't been in that position before, and so we need to learn how to handle the success of being in the game, and knowing that you've got to continue to put the hammer down and understand how to play a full 4 quarters of that. I think our guys, they take great responsibility with it. There was a lot of just self responsibility, accountability type of attitudes here the last few days, and I think guys are just hungry to get back on the horse again and get to work and to try to come back and do it even better this week. And we're just trying to look at it to say it's a one game season every week, and you just try to put yourself a little bit in a vacuum so that you don't get too discouraged by what happened the week previous or worry about what's to come. And you just got to continue to try to present yourself with just as much enthusiasm as what you had last week, just as much hunger and desire to go out there and to perform and fix and be precise at what you did or didn't do, and you just keep getting it better all the time.
Was it halftime adjustments in the third quarter that Moorhead made, or what do you think that happened in the third? Because that was the only quarter we didn't score in.
Right. I think it was a lot of just our momentum. We just didn't handle momentum change well. You could feel it starting to slip in the second quarter, I thought. And I just don't think I think we carried that into the halftime with us, and we didn't really respond and change it coming out in the third quarter. Of course, I mean, 3 turnovers, it doesn't help us, right? The fumbles, right? I think the last interception is a little bit of an exception to that, but the three, fumbles doesn't help our cause because I felt like we were able to move the ball at will for the most part offensively. And so, third quarter, we didn't score any points, and we've got to be able to sometimes play great offense to help our defense out.
You talked about the momentum shift
Hmm.
because it was 21-0, and they scored that touchdown. But you guys did put together a nice drive before the end of that half.
Yep, yep.
So I thought you
Did
guys did
respond.
respond
Hmm.
well
We
to
did.
that, but it was 21-15 at that point, and then
Hmm.
27-15. I guess talk about going for two compared to kicking the extra point to go into halftime.
Yeah, just to get us back on schedule, just to make sure that we were trying to, get back on track with, following, just try to get the 2 touchdown lead, and just I mean that was really the only thing about it.
What have you learned from the game this past week against Moorhead going into this week against Northwood?
Yeah, I think we learned that our team, they've got a lot of energy towards what we're doing, and I think we saw that in game one, and I think we're even seeing it going into week two now, right? And I don't see any type of discouragement or drop off in our guys. So I think we have a team that believes. I think we have a team that really wants to go out and try to get it better. I think maybe from the last 2 years, you had some immature minds and spirits that could have kind of started to kind of fall off and say, oh, here we go again. And, whatever that could weigh on in your mind. And I think now, we've got a little bit more of resiliency to us. And I think that allows us to push forward in a more consistent way. And, that's what I'm kind of seeing out of our group right now is that, even though we didn't get the result we wanted on Thursday night, we've got a group that still wants to go out there and make game two even better.
I think Duke threw the ball 14 times. Who's the only one to throw a pass? When you guys are
Yep.
putting together game plan, do you have a set? We're probably going to want to throw it about 15 times in this game, or are you more so letting it play out in terms of how you're running the offense through the air?
Yeah, good question. I think it's a little bit more of a let it play out. You know, when you get in, you go into it with a plan, but once you get in there, you don't really know what's going to happen, right? Especially in a first game scenario because you didn't really know how they were going to line up. You didn't have, previous games on them, only from the year before. And so we had to kind of adjust to make sure we knew what they were going to line up in, what they were giving us, and what we could take from them. And I think we felt really good about running the ball. And so, I think simply put, we're going to continue to take what the defense gives us. And, because we are wanting to establish the run game, we're not going to put ourselves in a position to just throw the ball unnecessarily. I think it just has to be calculated and well thought out and at the right times. And so, yeah, I think we'd like to throw it as much as we need to, but I don't think we're going to do it if we don't have to. If we're ripping off, 7-yard runs every play, it's as good as a slant or a hitch or a quick out or anything like that.
And then it's the same situation this weekend where Northwood hasn't played yet,
Correct.
so you don't have tape of a game this season on them.
Yeah.
What challenges does that present you guys
Yeah.
this week?
For sure. I think it's always one of those first game deals where it's the element of the unknown, and personnel is a big deal. You don't necessarily know exactly who they have, and if there's a new guy that's on the two deep that you didn't know from the year before, you just kind of wonder, what he's capable of doing or how you need to plan for that. But then schematically, obviously, you just have to be really aware of making adjustments in game and, understanding that you might have to just be flexible in terms of what you plan for and what you have to, react to.
Are you guys at a bit of an advantage having a game under your belt? Just comfortability. These guys, went through 60 minutes last Thursday. Just how are you seeing it from these guys, confidence wise, having that game behind them and having a start to the season, whatever it was?
Yeah, I think for sure it's a great advantage to have already played a game. You just look at kind of a whole season. You should be better in game 11 than you are in game 1, typically, right? You should be better in game 2 than you are in game 1. And so I think for us, I think it helps both emotionally and from more of a practical standpoint of execution on the field. I think it kind of gets that first game jitters out. There's still a lot of young guys that are contributing, and so to get them to be a little bit more settled going into game 2, and then also, no matter how much you scrimmage against each other, no matter how much live action you get against each other, when you go against another team, you really kind of find out what you need to do differently and better and hone in on and focus on. And I think that is an advantage for us now going into week 2, that we can focus on ourselves just a little bit more precisely.
And quickly on the defense, I think Hurdle's your only all-GLIAC guy back on defense. He comes out, pick 6, week 1, and defense struggles a little bit, second, third, fourth quarters. How are you, expecting those guys, returners, starters on defense to elevate the play of everyone else around them?
Yeah, they're going to be fine. It was a heck of an offense we faced, and that quarterback is arguably an NFL type of kid. They do a really good job with what they do, and they're an extreme opposite from what we do offensively, right? So, we go from defending the option in the run game all fall camp, and having to transition and make sure that we're trying to take away the pass game. So. I like what, we have defensively personnel-wise. I think those guys will rise to the occasion and make sure that they are, doing everything possible. When you go into a game against a passing attack, you've got to be able to create pressure on the quarterback. You got to be able to have guys that can really get in his face and affect that. I think we did that at times, but probably not as consistently as we needed to. And so I think we'll grow from that up front. And then, I think in the back end, there was still a few guys there that, needed to kind of work out some kinks with some of our coverages, and that'll be even better here as we move forward.
With the quarterback situation with Riddle and Chavold both playing minutes on Thursday's game, was that kind of part of just the feeling out process that we kind of talked about last week, or was that more of a strategy towards against Moorhead?
Yeah, I would be more comfortable if one guy absolutely showed that he could just take the whole offense and run with it and, probably show that he's the guy. But I don't think that we've had that. I think they both bring elements to the offense that's really good. And I don't think either one has necessarily, showed himself that he's head and shoulders above the other. And so, it's a little bit of our plan to make sure we play both of them. But I would say, we're kind of waiting for them to take the bull by the horns too. And so, until one of them kind of, goes, that much further above the other, then we're going to stick to kind of, making sure that we put each one of them in at opportune times for them to be successful and for the offense to continue to thrive.
How the offensive line feel with all the running that you guys did after week one? Because Riddle had 106,
Mm-hmm.
Jai Woods had 86, and I know Dobert was up there as well.
Yep.
So how's the offensive line and how's the stamina there?
I think good. I mean, I think having success kind of energizes you, and sometimes it doesn't hurt as bad when you have more success that you can kind of lean back on. And so, of course, those guys they're always going to play a little bit banged up. I mean, you're up front, and the way we come off the ball, there's going to be a lot of physical nature that they have to endure, and they're going to be just fine. We actually are going to gain a few guys back this week that we didn't have in week one, and so that will help the cause as well.
Are you afraid of blitzing right now due to the fact your DBs are trying to figure things out still?
Not at all. I think, we blitzed a decent amount of times on Thursday night. And I think it just depends on kind of offensively, can we get there? Is their offensive, scheme giving us an opportunity to get there? And so, Thursday night, Jack did such a great job of getting the ball out, and he can see the field so well that, it's sometimes hard to do that. You might as well stay in coverage. But I'm not scared or afraid that our DBs can't cover. It's just more of you got to make sure you take advantage of what they're giving you, and you got to make sure that you're setting that up for the right times and the opportunities.
All right, Coach. Brand new year. Lots of different faces in the lineup. Obviously, you lost a lot of talent due to graduation. Take us through this year's team and how the talent is coming together and how you guys are gelling.
Yeah, we're just starting week 3 right now. So a lot is still TBD. As you mentioned, we graduated those seniors that were instrumental to our success on and off the floor. But the team we have this year is super motivated, right? Like, I think for a lot of people who tune in during the season, they think like the season ended and nothing happened and now the season's starting again, right? And there's a lot of time and growth that happens in that void of time that people don't really see us, right? With our winter semester and summer workouts and stuff. And so we've already addressed all the like, who'd we lose? Well, how important were they were, and they were, but we're so far past that now mentally that we're just focused on this year. And the key pieces, I think, returning setter Allie Barlow is great, and her work ethic is great. She was named a captain. Senior middle Kenzie Gruner is doing phenomenally, and if we can pass the ball, like I think she could be unbelievable for us in terms of her play. Lisa Haugen as a libero. So these are all players that started last year, are starting again this year. And now, Casey Baki also on the outside, Rain Thompson potentially on the right side, or Helen Byring or Maddie York. All of these people got experience last year. And so we're going the season going, okay, now what are we trying to do? We're trying to get another outside that can really step up, and that's being competed for from both returners and incoming players. That other middle spot is being battled for between returners and incoming players. And so really we're just in a position now where we're just trying to see what we're made of. And, we're going down to Florida. We leave this afternoon and start on Thursday. We're actually the first match of GLIAC play. So we're the first team to play out of the GLIAC. We're playing really good opponents, and we'll see what we're made of. These first 2 weekends are going to be a challenge, and I think we're ready for it.
You've been here, a number of years now. Is the way you handle the off season any different from when you started? Are there any wrinkles that you throw in to make the team prepared for this Thursday? Come first match?
Yeah, that's a great question. It just depends on the year, right? Like, so for a number of years, we were returning a lot of our starters, and so it's more of like adding wrinkles into who we are. And we, after this last season, we sat down and we're like, we just kind of have to change everything about who we are, right? Because for 5 years, I hate that I'm talking about this, but I will. For 5 years, it was like, set the ball to Jackie. And if we're in system, set the ball to Megan. And they're going to be really successful. And that's just not a reality anymore. And nobody that's on our team right now is that player right now. So we can't just set the ball high to Jackie anymore or anybody. So we have to, change our offense and how we're running. And so this offseason was a lot of breaking down skill and saying, all right, our offense is going to look completely different. Here's how it's going to be. We're going to run faster. That's a really important thing. Our defense is going to be a little bit different than we've run historically. We've worked a lot in the limited time we've had on modifying our defense and being able to change on the fly a little bit more. We have to be better at blocking, so we worked a lot on blocking. But to answer your question, it varies year to year, and this year was probably the most, aside from when I first started, and I'm just literally introducing who I am and what my philosophies are, this has probably been the most in terms of like breaking down skill and changing who we are. And that's going to come with growing pains. And so, we scrimmaged Tech on Saturday, and there were some growing pains. There was a lot of learning. But quite honestly, and I told the team this, like in those scrimmages, you don't want to look phenomenal. You want to look like you're uncomfortable because you're trying to make change. And that was one of the first real opportunities to make change against an opponent who was pushing against us. And so there's a lot of learning that happened. And so we're going into this weekend saying, hey, we're going to play as hard as we can. We're going to continue to try to apply the things we've been working on. And sounds like it's like some sort of like eulogy of this program. It's not. It's kind of like, I don't know, a phoenix rising from the ashes type thing, right? Like we had to break it down to build it back up. So we'll see where we're at.
You mentioned 3 right side hitters, I think, just now.
I did.
Is it really hard to change a right to a left or a left to a right to try and get more talent on the court at a certain time?
Yeah. I mean, you can do that, right? Like we describe right sides and outsides as pin hitters. So you hit on either pin. There are definitely people who are way more comfortable on the left, and there are definitely people way more comfortable on the right. Now, the difference is on the left side, you get a lot more junk, right? You're also asked to pass the ball and serve receive a lot more. And so there's just different variables that you have to consider, right? So I'm not saying this is true. This is a hypothetical, but let's say like Rain, for example, is way more comfortable hitting on the outside, but she can't pass well and she can't block on the right side very well, but she can do all these other things on the right side well. So it's not just even individual specific, it is what's best for the team, right, at any given moment. And so those are things that coaches are always exploring what's the most sense, right? We recruited Rain as an outside, now she's kind of explicitly a right side. Maddie's our only lefty. She presents different things for us. She's the tallest, so she's typically the best blocker. And so we're evaluating all these things. Helen can just rip the ball really well, and she's growing a ton. Coming from she's a Youper, and now she's hasn't experienced this level of play a lot in her life, and so now she's just catching up to speed as a junior. And so, what's she going to look like in live play? And so it just gets really difficult to manage that stuff. But that's our job, right? Is to figure out who's the best person in any given moment, and then you just kind of hope that they perform at the level they're supposed to, and kind of go from there. But yeah, that position, it's tough, and we go back and forth with players all the time, trying to figure out what's the best for them and what's the best for us.
Is it both good and bad to kind of be thrown in the fire with 4 matches in 2 days, the way guys are going to be this weekend? How do you handle that when the volume is so much on the girls right away?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I'd be remiss to not mention is that the reason we're going to Florida is because this Howard Schultz, he gave a gift to our athletic department, and that's helping to fund this, which we're very excited about. And the nice thing about that is when you leave the region, now we are playing a team from Minnesota, but for the most part, we're playing teams outside of our region. There's less pressure on those matches, right? Because having been on the NCAA tournament selection committee, I know how important the in-region matches are. And so to only have one of those in the first 4 matches is helpful. To play really quality opponents is really beneficial, right? The thing that we've learned over time is like you have to learn how to manage wins and losses through those matches. You can never be satisfied with defeat, but if you feel like you're playing hard, you can kind of keep your head up and keep moving forward. And so that's really our only goal, is to play hard. And I mean, Wheeling is very good, and that's who we open the season against. And the host school, West Florida, is very good, and Spring Hill is very good, and Southwest Minnesota is always very good. And so we go into those matches just saying like we're gonna play our butts off, and whatever happens, happens. And there'll probably be a lot of adjusting and subbing and things like that, depending how the match is going. And I believe our players are ready for that challenge. Again, growing pains, but I'm not speaking that in a way of like we're not good enough. It's just we're trying to make changes, and I'm more focused on seeing those changes and us be successful than I am like the scoreboard. Do I want to win more than anybody? Yeah. I just need to be a realist about what we're walking into.
Has anybody surprised you thus far with their blocking, their setting, coming into the system, right side, left side? Has anybody really stood out and be like, wow, that's nice?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Freshman Kaylee McIntosh from Cincinnati, 6'2", so we knew she was going to be pretty good. And so she's looked really good. She surprised me. We knew she was going to be a good blocker. Her passing surprised me in a positive way. Sydney Bartles, who'd been here all summer. She's a junior. Played a little bit last year. Played a little bit of freshman year. But she's looking really good, really dynamic out there as a hitter, which is fun. Outside of that, I mean, everyone's working hard, but those two in particular, I'm like sitting in my office after practice going like, wow, they look pretty good. Yeah.
Let's start with what you saw in the exhibition. I mean, just how beneficial were those for you as a coach to figure out what you have going into the regular season now this weekend?
Really helpful. We had 3 back-to-back exhibitions. I guess you'd call it back-to-back-to-back. Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. So we learned a lot pretty quickly, which is great. We got a lot of minutes under a lot of people right away. And I think we all know there's a lot of newness, not just in coaching staff, but in returning players, a lot of incoming freshmen. And so it was good for us to play some outside competition and see where we are. It's also really good to see where our strengths lie and where our deficiencies are, so we know how to plan moving forward. I think preseason is such a short window. It's a challenge because you don't get to cover everything you need to before you step into your first exhibition. Even now, as we look forward to our first real game, there's still things we haven't covered, and we probably won't get to have the holistic coverage that we would like. But you make the most of it. We know everyone's in that same position. But those exhibitions were great. Got out a lot of that first game nerves, second game nerves, third game nerves. We've done it now. I think it's also good to play back to back like that because that is what we do all season long. So it was really beneficial in a lot of different ways.
Have you seen your leaders, some of your veterans on this team, kind of fill in with these younger people coming in on the roster? And as you mentioned, there is a little bit of newness to this team this year. What have you seen so far in some of your veteran players in terms of the leadership they've shown throughout the preseason, how it'll carry on into this new year?
Sure. I think it's been great. Our returners have been very welcoming. They've also laid the standard down right away. And I don't think there's been any question about what that looks like, which is great. The girls have shown up every day with a high level of intensity. The effort's been off the charts. The attitude's been great. Now we're trying to match that with the soccer quality. And I think that comes and it stems from a good example from our returners. And they've been there before in a lot of different capacities, but they know what it takes to be successful in this league and in this region. And so I think, being able to share that with girls who have never experienced college soccer before is really important. And then there's been an element of support that is so important at this stage when a lot of girls are going through a lot of firsts, not just from a soccer perspective. And I think they've got, again, they've got that support system. They've got answers. They've got that shoulder if anyone needs anything. And so our returners, our veterans have been so helpful in a lot of different ways. And I think the freshmen would back me up on that. I know they spend a lot of time away from soccer. And so I think that the relationships they build away from the field, those go a long way when you talk about your team camaraderie and team chemistry and all those sorts of things. And from what I've seen so far, things are in a really good place.
You mentioned identifying strengths and weaknesses. What would you consider strengths of the team right now? Because in a couple of years past, it's really been the attack, 4 or 5
Sure.
goals a game at times. What do you think are your team's strengths right now?
Yeah, straight away, I think we found out we're a fairly athletic team and we're a fairly fit team. And I think that lends itself to putting a lot of pressure on the opponent when they have the ball. So we will defensively we're going to try and apply as much pressure as we can. The higher up the field we can win it, the better off we're going to be. We've spent a lot of time on what we look like in possession with the ball. That is a work in progress. I think philosophically there's some differences in what they've been doing to what we need to and have to do now in order to be successful. And those are things that we'll continue to work on the entirety of the season, into the spring, into next season. There's no quick fix for that. We have girls that they challenge for everything. They tackle everything. They win everything. There's a certain edge to it that I love. There's no team that's going to walk in and play us that's going to leave feeling like it was an easy game, whatever the outcome. I think our team is very, very competitive. They get after it, and I love that about them. Again, the soccer concepts are what we're going to have to continue to grow and work on. We've scored 11 goals in 3 exhibition games, so in terms of attack, it's been great. We'll see how that translates once we get into our regular season. I've enjoyed the amount of chances we've created in a lot of different ways. And I think there's things we can control right now and things that are just going to take time. But I think all the controllables, and I've talked about this a lot previously, but our preparation, our recovery, our attitude, our effort, all those things the girls are taking care of at a really high level. The soccer-related things we will continue to build on.
Springfield's in the same region, in the Midwest region.
Yes.
So you have some familiarity with the competition around. How much does that benefit you, and how much might there be a learning curve for you as a coach to learn the GLIAC specifically?
Yeah, I think knowing of something versus actually knowing it is completely different. I think this conference is tough. How tough, we'll get to see. But I think we have to prepare and focus like every game is going to be like a Grand Valley game, because we truly don't know. Same with our team. A team that's won the conference tournament. We're a completely new team now. And, you think that other teams looking in on that would say, yeah, they're going to be a new team. You have to prepare like it's the Northern Michigan that's dominated the conference for a while, and we hope to be that. But I think knowing the region, being in a conference that was very similar in terms of the very little disparity across the conference, you have to train every day like you're preparing to play your best game. And so for us, that's what we've trained in preseason. And that's how we've prepared going into our exhibition games. That's how we'll approach our 4 non-cons, which are going to be tough. And I think those are really important in region games. So you talk about the region. I've never in my career played any of the 4 non-con teams. And again, what we watch on film from last year might not necessarily be the same team this year. And so I think we have to approach every game respecting the opponent that they are today. And that's what we'll do. But I think that we can have success in this region if we do the right things, recruit the right kids. And again, I think the mentality from the team has been really, really good.
Well, Coach, started out with Green Bay, the little exhibition there. It looked like it was a pretty strong preseason for you, especially against a Division I team like Green Bay. How does it kind of get you ready for Thursday's home opener?
Yeah, I think the game is probably a small portion of the productivity we've had in preseason. Obviously, it's a good test run. We had another game in there against Superior, which was as much more like a GLIAC game than the game against Green Bay. So I would say that game probably prepared us more than Green Bay's game, just in terms of what we're going to have to deal with. Game in and game out, whether you're in the GLIAC or whether you're playing a team from the GLVC or the GMAC, which we're going to have on Thursday, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be physical. We know that, and I think that's probably was a better preparation, the game away at Superior versus the match at Green Bay. It's nice to know that we can play with a really high-level Division I team, but it doesn't mean anything at our level. It means just about nothing. So I think when you talk about preseason as a whole, it's been productive, and that's led by our captains and our leadership and Ale and Jan. But again, it doesn't really mean much until you play that first game and really see where you're at. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
Tell us about your captains.
Of course.
Why they're captains.
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts to that. First, you got to see how they play and the amount of work that they put in. Both Ale and Jan on the field, they just never stop running. They never stop working. And that's why they're the captains, because they're the fittest, they're the hardest working, they care the most about the team, and they've demonstrated that over the period of 2-3 years. And to go through kind of the trials and tribulations that we've had as a program, to see those guys now be the leaders. It sets a totally different mindset to the rest of the program versus where we were a couple years ago. And it's about standards, and it's about the program, it's about fitness, and it's about doing all the little things that really actually add up to mattering in our conference. So those two guys are just really, really great leaders and good representations of the program. And they're going to pass that on. And I think that's what's amazing about their leadership is that this freshman group of players that we're really excited about, they're walking into a program that is so much more advanced than 2 or 3 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with who are the current captains and leaders of our program. And that's Ale and Jan. So.
How much do you guys really kind of want to set the tone this weekend? You're out there for the first time.
Yeah, that's
At the same time, if the result isn't there, how are you not discouraged that it disrupts you going forward?
Yeah, so these are the questions that we asked ourselves last year, all winter and at every practice. How can you set the tone and set the energy level in every single match, no matter who you play? And when you do get knocked down, can you just get up and keep playing? And that's our mentality. So yeah, Northwood's a tough team. We barely beat them last year. They crushed us 2 years ago here. So we don't take any game at this level lightly. But the thing that matters the most, I believe, having done this now for 3 years in this league, is you have to be resilient. You have to be able to get back up after mistakes. That's true in life, and that's true in soccer. And so we're going to have our down moments. Northwood's going to be on top of us for a few minutes. And how do we manage those moments? How do we turn those difficult pressure moments into us getting back on the ball and getting chances? How do we deal with going down a goal, down a man, which all happened last year? It's going to happen again. That's the main question. And I can't answer that for you today on camera. They have to answer that on the field. And that's where this team is. It's all about the players, and they've got to get it done. It's not down to the coaching staff or the meals that we have or the gear or anything like that. It's basically a players' game, and so they will determine that on Thursday.
He doesn't need to answer anything. That was so good.
You can do a light question. You can have some fun too. We've had yeah. All right, throw it to them.
But it's true.
Yeah.
You don't know until they play a real
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Right. And we did, and I thought we did really well in the second half of that game where we were really being challenged for the first time as a new group. And I thought they responded well, but the thing is in soccer is sometimes you dig yourself too big of a hole to get out of. You let in a set piece goal early in a game. That could be it. You may find that out that the other goalkeeper is just on a worldie and he's going to make 8 saves and you've lost that game 1-0 because you started poorly for 5 minutes. And that's the difficulty in soccer. So we have to be, up for all those difficult moments. And that's what we learned last year. And hopefully they're able to put that into play, this year. But it's a player's game. It's up to them, not me or my staff anymore.
Did that win at Parkside do anything?
You guys love that, right? We talked about that on the podcast.
Because it was hilarious.
Yeah. the celebration or just the
Well, you guys were hyped to
right.
the season. You weren't moving on to any postseason.
I think the short answer is I think it did. I think it did because it's the exact moment we're discussing right now. They were able to bounce back 2 days later from being knocked out for their season, and they're able to show that they had some grit. And then we use that grit for all the work we did in the Dome that we're not going to talk about. We don't want to tell our opposition that. But, we're done talking. The team's done talking. No one wants to talk anymore. They just want to play. And same with myself. But I believe that game did help them. They recognized that, no, this is actually how you have to play to win in Nigliac. And so that's what we've tried to replicate for the last 6 months.
And technically on the field, do you expect anything to look dramatically different without guys like Tommaso or
I think there's going to be a different look. Yeah, there will be a different look on both sides of the ball. You'll see.
How so?
Well, again, without giving too much away, we're still going to want the ball. Every team wants the ball. We're going to want to keep that. But I think there's going to be opportunities for us to score goals in different ways than maybe we had in the past. And so that's our focus, and we believe that comes not just from our attack, but really from our grit on defense. So So that's really what I'm alluding to, is that I think our defensive work rate has been better, and that's going to allow for more chances.
You talked a little bit about how this team's going to look a little different on Thursday. I actually kind of talked to Coach Egolf about the way her team's going to look a little bit different this year as well. You talked about those new leaders, new captains coming in. What have you seen from them so far? Relaying stuff to the younger guys or.
It's been amazing. Yeah, it's the club and the program that I've always wanted to run, because the true test, I think, was on Sunday at the Green Goal. I said everyone else is doing it. I'm a spectator today, and all 30 players, staff, the volunteers, trainers, everybody ran the program and the game as efficiently as possible without me doing anything. So I think that's that's a good sign from your leadership. So all those little things that you talked about, that's probably part of it. But yeah, they're able to run the show and put out a good product. But now's the time where you have to do it against a real team, and that's always the test. And again, I'll just say it again, we're done talking. We just want to play and prove ourselves, and the team has been trying to do that for the last 8 months. But you only get to do that when it's the regular season. So now's their time.
Coach, last time we talked to you, we were talking about GLIAC track championships.
Yeah.
How do you adjust your mind over the summer, getting into cross country and
I'm trying to take a little bit of a break, but mostly, yeah, just getting ready for the next thing, and actually kind of excited because we really had, and even in track, we had our distance group had some really good results. So I had a feeling we were going to have a good year of cross country coming up, and it's always exciting. I like the fall, and cross country is they're both fun sports, but fun sport, cross country, through the woods.
What and who have stood out to you?
Well, we actually have, and then the other thing is we do have Maddie Szymanski back, and she was, she was gone all last year, and the year before that she had made it to nationals in cross country as an individual. So that's really exciting. She's back full strength, and in our early scrimmage and a time trial we did on the track the other day, she's definitely back even faster. And then that group that was behind her, has moved up, which is really great. And then we have a couple freshmen that are right in the mix too, which also is exciting. So there's the group of we have a few freshmen, a few juniors, a few sophomores that are all right in there.
For like the rehab process with Maddie, just like how long did it take for her, just like as a coach, like how proud of you were?
Kind of refresh us on what.
Yeah, so she ended up having a knee injury, which she started running, last fall, but then we just realized it wasn't. She had a few different opinions and ended up down in Michigan State and had that's the doctor that she ended up having surgery, and so had it repaired, and then she came back slowly and had to do not running training for it was 6 months worth of, and so she was, big credit to her because she was on the bike doing intervals and then slowly coming back, walk, run. And so, to get back at the level, even above the level she was at. So she, all through the year, she was still part of the team all last year, but she didn't practice basically at all with us. She's so really exciting to see what she did and what she's going to do coming ahead. But we have we did a time trial on the on the track the other day. We every year we do a 3K time trial for years since I've been here, 20 whatever years. This team, and I told them afterwards, the 3K time trial was the fastest team on the 3K time trial that we've ever had. So not just Maddie way ahead, but then we have a group of 12. We had a group of 12 athletes that were not that far behind her. So really an exciting year ahead, for sure.
Going down to Green Bay this weekend, that's a meet you've participated in the past, right? So
yeah,
you guys kind of feel like you know what to expect when you go down there?
Yeah, we just went there last year, and it was it is a 6K, so right away jumping into the 6K, which is what we'll race at, conference, regionals, and nationals, hopefully. It's a good course, an old golf course, but rolling, pretty tough. And then last year there was Winona State was there, and of course Green Bay is there. There were some really strong teams, a few Division I teams too. So it'll be, and Michigan Tech will be there too. So it'll be a good start to the season, kind of a real race to see where we're at and see what we can do. And it looks like the weather's going to be perfect. It's going to be 63 degrees and sunny. So can't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of runs, so I can figure out what questions to ask next week.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, just getting started. It'll be fun to see where we're at and see against some of the other teams for sure. I think people will be surprised because a lot of people probably didn't realize Maddie was, maybe thought she was gone or whatever, but she's back. And then, that whole crew really trained well over the summer, so it's definitely a strong team.